Hello everybody, Styx here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a deck that was kind of an odd combination when it was first thought out, but since then has proven to be a huge power in both regionals and cities, and that is a deck centered around the combination of Vespiquen and Vileplume. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like and drop a comment, maybe subscribe. It helps us out a ton and lets us do more for you guys. But onto the deck. The deck is centered around Vespiquen with the Be Revenge attack, 90 HP, and Be Revenge does 20 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile, and we are pairing that with Vileplume with the Irritating Pollen ability. Each player can't play item cards from his or her hand, so they have a great combination. Basically, you turn one, just flood your discard pile with Pokemon so that Vespiquen can hit for a ton of damage, and then Vileplume locks your opponents from being able to use items. Well, I mean, it technically locks you both, but you will have already played all the items that you really need to, and so basically you just try to overwhelm your opponent very early with Vespiquen's attack. Now, I am also pairing this with Toxicroak EX with the triple poison. Basically, this deck only runs on double colorless energy. There are some variations of this deck that run some regular energy and do not run Toxicroak. I have another version of this deck that I like that runs 2 regular grass energy instead of the Toxicroak, but this was a deck list, well, very similar to a deck list used in, I believe, Tennessee or somewhere. I came across this deck and they had Toxicroak with the triple poison. Your active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Put 3 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon between turns. Basically, Toxicroak is only good for Aegislash because otherwise Aegislash would not be affected by any attack because we only run double colorless energy. So Toxicroak is our way of dealing with that, especially because the opponent will most likely not be able to retreat Aegislash, considering they will be item locked. But anyway, for the Pokemon, we are running perhaps the heaviest line of Pokemon that I think I've ever run in a deck. We are running not Acrobike. I'm trying to click on the Shaman. There we go. We're running 4 of these Shaman with the setup. I mean, basically, you just want to run as many as possible because if you run out of bench space, you can always just discard the Shaman to power up Be Revenge even more. We're running a 4-4 line of Combee and Vespiquen. These are our main attackers. You want to have as many of them as possible. And then a 4-4 3-line of Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume. We want to run a heavy line to increase consistency, but also to discard them to increase the damage of Be Revenge. You will never really need more than 1 Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume, so just discard 3, 3, and 2, and guess what? You're already powering up Be Revenge by 80 just by getting rid of the unnecessary Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume. We are running the 1 Toxicroak, like I said, for the triple poison just for Aegislash. If you are not against a deck that has Aegislash, you want to just discard Toxicroak because it will not be of much help. We're running 3 Unknown, really just for the farewell, well, entirely for the farewell letter. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard it and all cards attached to it and draw a card. So I mean, it's really just discard Unknown, power up Be Revenge a little bit more, and draw a card is great for some draw support later in the game, but I mean, you don't want to rely on that completely. As for the items, we are running 4 Acrobike just to mill through our deck, just get the necessary cards and discard the unnecessary. 4 Battle Compressor to get rid of all the unnecessary cards that we will not want to draw in the game. 2 Level Ball, only 2 of them because you really want to discard as much as possible, and also Level Ball can't search out for a Shaman. So Level Ball is great for getting out some of like the Combees, the Oddishes, the Glooms, and an Unknown if you need it. And 2 Revitalizer. This card was reprinted in Generations, or it was printed in Generations. I'm not sure if it was printed before because I wasn't really around that. I haven't been around the game long enough to know if Revitalizer was reprinted, but put 2 grass Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. This is a phenomenal card because if you happen to have to discard like a bunch of Gloom and Vileplume to where you don't have them in your deck anymore, well, you can just go ahead and play a Revitalizer and get both of them out. If you have a Forest of Giant Plants and you have a Battle Compressor and a Revitalizer, well, guess what? You have basically a free Vileplume right there. So Revitalizer is just a phenomenal card in this deck and helps so much with the consistency. We're running 4 Trainer's Mail just to search out some more trainer cards from our deck, 4 Ultra Ball to get everything back, 1 AZ just in case we need to play items later in the game when we have an item lock going. We can just AZ up the Vileplume and play it back down after we used all of our item cards. 1 Lysander, really because most decks' way of beating Vespiquen Vileplume, I mean, besides just kind of hoping that we get a crap hand, is to power up something really strong on the bench that we are not able to take out. Lysander is able to just bring that in and knock that out. And also, I mean, it can help taking like a couple prizes if you want to knock out a Shaman, or if your opponent, like if you're facing a Darkrai Hypno deck, you can just go ahead and take out the Hypno to destroy your opponent's engine of, well, I mean, I guess like Aromatisse, like all those cards that are just on the bench that aren't supposed to attack, but are supposed to drive the deck. Just Lysander that in, get rid of it, and put your opponent back even more. 2 Sycamore, only running 2, you could run more, let's see, there we go. Basically just a reset, like I don't like what I have the rest of my hand, or I can't play the rest of my hand, so I'm just going to get 7 more cards. 1 Skyla helps with the efficiency of, well, the consistency and efficiency, because you can really just Skyla for anything you want. There we go. Well, actually, it's not Skyla. I mean, this version, it's just fan service. But basically, you can get a Forest of Giant Plants. You can get a Sycamore or a Lysander to use next turn. Skyla really helps the consistency of this deck, and we're running 4 Forest of Giant Plants just to try to get completely set up turn 1. You want to run 4 of these because you want to have that as soon as you're able to draw, and then 4 DCE because that's what you're going to be attacking with. We're not running any other energy because the goal of this deck is not long-term, it is just overwhelm your opponent from turn 1, and this deck really can do it a lot more often than not. I mean, sometimes you draw a hand of like 3 Vileplume, a couple Gloom, like a Toxicroak and something like that, to where you just have a dead hand and you can't do anything with it. But I mean, then again, that happens with any deck. This deck is incredibly consistent and incredibly powerful, and I usually can get a turn 1 setup where I have a Vespiquen with a DCE on it and a Vileplume on the bench, just locking our opponent. So yeah, that is the deck, and let's just go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against a tiny 2/5/5 with a water and fire deck. Not really sure what a water and fire deck would be. I mean, it might be like a... I'm really trying to think what exactly a water fire deck would be. I mean, maybe like Delphox Octillery just for insane draw support. Greninja Delphox for like a, I don't know, Gen 6 starter combination deck. I'm really not sure what a fire water deck would be. But, okay, we do get to call the coin flip. Can it be Tails? Yes, it is, so we do get to go first. That is great for this deck. Hopefully we will be able to lock our opponent turn 1. And we start with actually a very, very, very good hand. I really like this hand right now. Because we'll immediately be able to play the Forest of Giant Plants, Ultra Ball away, probably, depending on what my opponent sends out will determine whether or not I discard the Vespiquen, because I definitely could evolve the Combee turn 1, but I might just want to throw it into the discard pile. That way I can power up Be Revenge to get just a little more damage, and also because I will have 3 other Vespiquen to work with. And, okay, so... So this is a very interesting deck that's like a Slowking, Houndoom, Flareon, Palkia deck. Really interesting. You don't normally see that, but what I am going to go ahead and do is discard the Gloom and the Combee to grab another Shaman. Yes, grab another Shaman. Go ahead and play the Forest of Giant Plants, play the DCE onto the Combee, play the Vespiquen down, evolve, and go for a Shaman just to get some more cards, see if we can get something else this turn. Do get a Battle Compressor, so what I am going to do is go ahead and get rid of the Oddish, get rid of probably going to get rid of another Forest of Giant Plants, and get rid of a... I'll get rid of a Vileplume, or another Oddish. No, I'll get rid of a Vileplume. There we go. And then I will go ahead and Trainer's Mail, get a Revitalizer. That works. Yes, I do have an Oddish and the Gloom in the discard pile, so I'm going to go ahead and play the Revitalizer, get both of those guys back, play them both down. There we go. Go for another Trainer's Mail, get an Acrobike. I mean, we could get the other Acrobike, but I like this one better, but that's just a matter of preference. If you want to get the other Acrobike, then more power to you. I'm going to grab the Shaman instead of the Unknown, just because draw support, and okay, we will get 3 more cards. Can I work with this? Kind of. I don't like that I have to work with this, but it's something that we just have to do at this point. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Ultra Ball and the DCE to grab, I think I'm going to grab another Combee and then play the Vespiquen down. That way I have 2 Vespiquen ready to go. Play that down there. Go for the Shaman. Hopefully get a Vileplume this turn, or something to get a Vileplume. And okay, so this is actually what it comes down to. Am I able to get a Vileplume? Yes. Okay, I will get a Vileplume this turn. Let's go ahead and discard the Gloom and the Acrobike to grab a Vileplume. Wherever it is, there you go. And I won't be able to OHKO the Flareon, but what I can do is go ahead and Trainer's Mail, see what else we can get. I do get a Professor Sycamore. That works, and I think I will just go for the AZ. Do I want to go for the AZ? Yeah, I'll go for an AZ on the Shaman just to get some more cards in my hand. Play that down. I want to wait to play the Vileplume until I've played out my hand completely. I even get a Skyla, so what I can do is Acrobike, grab, I guess, a Lysander, or no, I'm going to grab a Battle Compressor. I don't think I will particularly need the Lysander. I mean, it could help for knocking out the Slowking, but I kind of want to get some more damage going. Let's get rid of the Shaman, the Toxicroak, and I think an Oddish. So let's see how much damage we are doing right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're only doing 90 damage. That is enough for a 2-hit KO, and I think that's going to be all we're going to do this turn. Let's just go ahead and play the Vileplume down and end my turn right there. Hopefully my opponent will not have anything that he can particularly do, so that's kind of what I'm going for right now. I probably should have saved the AZ maybe to, I guess, bring up the Vileplume if I needed it. Oh, my opponent had a Sycamore in his hand. That's frustrating. But luckily he had to waste his supporter. I mean, I guess on drawing he couldn't play any of his items at all. He is just going to power up the Houndoom in the back. Grand Flame will be able to one-shot Vespiquen, so that is something I have to watch out for. Doesn't look like he has any fire energy in the discard pile. My opponent just passes that turn. That is great for us. I'm going to go ahead and play the DCE onto this Vespiquen. Skyla, let's see what we have. Probably for a Forest of Giant Plants just to thin our deck out a little bit. And then I'm just going to go straight for a Bee Revenge. Well, hopefully I'll be able to go for the Bee Revenge. I'm kind of expecting to see that little Wi-Fi. Oh, nope, we are able to go for the Bee Revenge. And this will be a 2-hit KO on our opponent's Flareon. So that is pretty awesome. And what I can do next turn is, my opponent's probably going to try to power up the Houndoom in the back. That's what I would think he would do anyway, just so he can OHKO a Vespiquen. So I will have to. Oh, okay, so we can't power it up completely yet. What I am just going to do, I think this turn, is Bee Revenge. I don't have to do anything yet, so that's why I'm sitting on the Sycamore for now. Just because I want to be able to discard. Oh, there you go. I will be able to discard even more Pokemon next turn with my Sycamore, and my opponent's just going to play down. Okay, looks like he gets an Octillery. If he gets some Slowking going, then that will be very problematic because he will have chances of moving my energy around. Luckily, we keep him from being able to play anything really, and he goes for the Melting Horn. That's unfortunate, but what I can do is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I won't be able to knock out the Houndoom just yet. What I am probably going to do is just continually try to get more damage on the Houndoom. I'll save the Sycamore until I need to, I guess, just draw out my hand completely. And, I mean, if I Sycamore, I will deck out, which will be a problem, but, well, especially if he continually goes for the Melting Horn, and we do see him get rid of a DCE, which is unfortunate. Okay, now I will be able to 100% get a Sycamore, and get rid of enough Pokemon for a knockout if my opponent manages to take out our Vespiquen. And we do get a 2-hit knockout on the Houndoom, which is great. We have a huge hand right now, and I don't think there's my opponent will have to retreat in order to be able to knock us out, especially because, well, in order to not lose next turn. And my opponent just concedes because there was nothing he could do. I mean, even with a fire deck, he wasn't able to defeat us. And yeah, Vespiquen was able to just overwhelm our opponent. I mean, even though we were only getting 90 damage, that was enough for 2-hit knockouts. And the item lock kept our opponent from being able to knock us out in return. So that is exactly how this deck is supposed to work, and let's just go ahead and see if we can find one more. Alrighty, we have found another one against a Dragon, Steel, and Dark deck. So this one could be kind of troublesome depending on the deck. Let's go for the coin flip. Do we get to go first? No, we don't! Ooh, that stinks. Unless our opponent lets us go first, which would be very, very nice, but nope. Unfortunately, we do not get to go first, so that's a bit of a bummer. We will start with a Shaman. I mean, I guess that's not the absolute end of the world, but Shaman is not what you want to start off with in this deck, so I will probably have to try to dig for an AZ in order to be able to bring that out. And okay, our opponent starts with a Bronzor, which... ooh, man, he has to go for a Professor Birch's Observations turn 1. He luckily gets heads. If he got tails, I think we might have been able to just completely just item lock him to where he couldn't do anything. And our opponent gets an Ultra Ball, gets rid of 2 Metal Energy. That's exactly what you would really want to get rid of with an Ultra Ball in this deck. Oh, in the deck that it looks like my opponent's using. Grabs Zorua, gets a Float Stone on it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to lock our opponent down much. And, man... well, I mean, we weren't able to lock our opponent down at all because he was able to go first, and I'm really hoping that, okay, he does just slap the Fighting Fury Belt onto the Shaman, and what I am going to go ahead and do is play the Trainer's Mail, grab an Acrobike, go ahead and Trainer's Mail again, grab probably the Forest of Giant Plants. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Skyfield. Go for the Acrobike, see what I can get. We get... oh man, we're going to be discarding a bunch of Vespiquens, which is not the best thing in the world, but I mean, then again, it's also not horrible, as I'm just going to go for an Ultra Ball, get rid of the Vespiquen and the Skyla to probably grab... I want to grab another Shaman just because I want to save like my level balls for the Combee, but at the same time, I want to be able to play down my hand. So I think that's just what I'm going to do, is grab a Combee with this, play the Combee, play the Vespiquen, and then go for a Shaman to get more cards. And I'm really hoping we can get an Oko on the Bronzor this turn, but it doesn't look like we will be able to because I will have to go for a Sycamore. I will not be able to go for an AZ, so let's just go ahead and Ultra Ball away, or Battle Compressor away the Toxicroak, another Gloom, and probably just a Vileplume in case I grab a Revitalizer that I want to be able to use. Do I want to get rid of the Toxicroak, or do I want to get rid of another Combee? Let's go ahead and get rid of the Toxicroak. Wherever it went, I think it's all the way back here. Yes, it is. Let's get rid of that. We don't need it this game. Let's go ahead and Professor Sycamore, just kind of concede the fact that we will not be able to go for a Bee Revenge this turn. I do get another Unknown, which is phenomenal. Let's go ahead and play the DCE onto the Shaman. I think I'm going to go ahead and Trainer's Mail, see what else I can get. I do get an AZ for next turn, which could be great. Let's go ahead and grab that. I'm going to go ahead and Farewell Letter. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. We grab another DCE. That is not what I wanted to have to discard. Let's go ahead and grab that, get another Ultra Ball. What I am going to do is Ultra Ball away. I think I'm going to get rid of a DCE and another Ultra Ball to grab, I think, a Combee. And then I can Revitalizer to grab a Vileplume and a Vespiquen, and then just Sky Return for some damage. Vespiquen and Vileplume. And how many Pokemon do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think... okay, so what I am going to do is go ahead and play the Vespiquen down here, play the Vileplume right here. Let's just go ahead and Sky Return, get 30 damage, and then play the Vespiquen down. And hopefully our opponent can't do anything. I can always AZ up my Vileplume if I want to play some items, but okay, our opponent just concedes because he didn't have anything, and that is the power of this deck. If you get a turn 1 lock and your opponent plays down their hand, even if they go second, you still, I mean, you'll still get the win. And all right, we do complete the Grass Challenge. That is great. But yeah, this deck is very powerful. It often wins in the first couple turns. I mean, there is rarely a game that you go an extended amount of time. I have had it, like you saw in the first game, your opponent can play it completely out, but the item lock is just devastating for your opponent. Not as much for you, because hopefully you will have played out your deck to where you just have everything that you need, and you have everything you need out on the field. So I love this deck. It's very fun, it's very fast, and it's also very cheap. I mean, obviously the 4 Shaman aren't that cheap. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than a lot of EX decks, and it's also very, very successful. I mean, winning some regionals, winning some cities, I mean, all of that. So yeah, that is the deck, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.